Something is brewing in Los Angeles that has the basketball world holding its breath. Welcome back to Lakers News Fan Report, the place where you get unfiltered analysis, breaking updates, and insider perspectives on everything surrounding our beloved Lakers. I'm here to walk you through a developing situation that could fundamentally alter the trajectory of this franchise for the next decade. This involves the most dominant point guard performance we've witnessed in Lakers purple and gold since Magic Johnson himself, record-breaking numbers that are rewriting the history books, and a looming decision that's keeping Lakers management awake at night. By the time we reach the end of this breakdown, you'll understand exactly what's at stake and why the next few months might determine whether we're celebrating championships or rebuilding from scratch. This is not the time to click away, Lakers Nation. Let me start by acknowledging the elephant in the room that every single Lakers fan has been thinking about, but nobody wants to say out loud. We're currently watching one of the most spectacular individual seasons in franchise history unfold right before our eyes. The numbers are staggering, the performances are historic, and the impact on our success this season has been nothing short of transformational. We're sitting at 19 wins and 7 losses, positioned as legitimate title contenders in a loaded Western Conference, and there's one name responsible for elevating this team to that level. The Lakers organization has been blessed with transcendent point guard talent throughout our storied history. When you think about the greatest players to ever run the point in purple and gold, certain names immediately come to mind. Jerry West, one of the most clutch performers in NBA history, defined an entire era of Lakers basketball with his scoring prowess and competitive fire. Magic Johnson revolutionized the position, bringing Showtime to Los Angeles and capturing 5 championships with a smile that lit up the entire league. These are legends whose contributions will never be forgotten, names that are synonymous with Lakers excellence. But here's where the conversation gets fascinating and maybe a little uncomfortable for some traditionalists. What we're witnessing right now in this current season is a point guard performance that's challenging even those legendary standards in certain statistical categories. I'm talking about someone who just made history in a way that even Magic and Jerry never accomplished. The record for most 45-point double-doubles by a point guard in Lakers history has just been broken, and it happened this past Thursday night against the Utah Jazz with a 45.14 assist masterpiece that left everyone in attendance speechless. Luka Doncic is not just having a good season, he's having a potentially MVP-caliber season while simultaneously cementing himself as arguably the greatest offensive point guard this franchise has ever seen. Those are strong words, I understand that, but the numbers demand we have this conversation. Doncic is currently averaging 34.7 points per game, 8.8 assists, and 8.7 rebounds on a nightly basis. Those aren't just all-star numbers, those are historically significant numbers that place him in rare company across the entire league, not just Lakers history. Let me put that in perspective for you, because sometimes we become numb to statistics without truly understanding their magnitude. Averaging nearly 35 points per game puts Doncic in the same stratosphere as peak Kobe Bryant, who himself only averaged over 35 points once in his entire legendary career back in 2005. Combining that scoring output with nearly 9 assists per game means Doncic is not only the primary scorer, but also the primary facilitator, making everyone around him better while carrying the offensive load. And grabbing almost 9 rebounds per game as a guard demonstrates his all-around impact and involvement in every aspect of the game. The Lakers are currently 5.5 games back from the Oklahoma City Thunder for the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. That might sound like a significant gap, but in reality, we're talking about maybe 2 or 3 wins separating us from the top spot, with plenty of season remaining. The fact that we're even in this conversation that were being mentioned as legitimate contenders for the best record in a conference that includes the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Clippers, and other powerhouse teams, is a direct result of Doncic's transcendent play. His impact extends beyond just the box score numbers, though those are certainly impressive enough on their own. Doncic's ability to control the pace of the game, to manipulate defenses with his basketball IQ, and to make the right play in crunch time situations has given the Lakers something they've desperately needed since the championship run in 2020. We finally have a true floor general who can take over games when needed, but also knows when to get his teammates involved. That's the mark of a special player, someone who understands that basketball is ultimately about winning, not just individual statistics. The MVP conversation is real, and it's happening right now. According to the most recent KIA MVP ladder released by the NBA, Doncic currently sits third behind only Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic. Think about that for a moment. We're talking about the third best player in the entire league this season by most metrics, and he's doing it in a Lakers uniform during his first full season with the franchise. That's the kind of acquisition that defines eras, that separates successful franchises from championship dynasties. In an ideal world, the narrative writes itself perfectly. Doncic continues this level of play throughout the season, leads the Lakers to their first championship since the bubble in 2020, captures his first MVP award in the process, and cements his legacy as one of the all-time Lakers greats. That's the dream scenario every Lakers fan is envisioning right now. Victory parades down Figueroa Street, Doncic holding both the Larry O'Brien Trophy and the MVP trophy simultaneously, and banner number 18 hanging in the rafters of Crypto.com Arena. But here's where the story takes a turn that nobody wants to discuss publicly, but everyone is thinking about privately. Professional sports is a business, and business decisions are driven by factors that go far beyond on-court production and fan sentiment. Contract situations, salary cap implications, roster construction philosophy, organizational direction, and long-term planning all factor into the decisions that franchises make about their star players. And when you have a 26-year-old superstar performing at an MVP level, those conversations become exponentially more complex. The reality that Lakers management is currently grappling with involves some very difficult questions that don't have easy answers. How do you build a championship-caliber roster around a player who commands maximum contract dollars? What sacrifices are necessary in terms of depth and supporting cast to accommodate that financial commitment? Is the current roster construction sustainable for multiple championship runs, or are we looking at a short window of contention before inevitable roster turnover? These are the types of strategic considerations that keep general managers and team presidents up at night. There's also the player's perspective to consider, and this is where things get particularly interesting. Doncic is 26 years old, entering the absolute prime of his career and performing at a level that puts him in the conversation with the very best players in the world. Players of that caliber have options, they have leverage, and they have visions for their careers that might not always align perfectly with the organization's plans. The NBA is increasingly a player empowerment league where superstars dictate terms and determine their own destinies. When you combine a player performing at an MVP level with an organization facing complex roster construction challenges and significant financial decisions on the horizon, you create the conditions for difficult conversations about the future. This doesn't mean anything is imminent, it doesn't mean decisions have been made, but it does mean that both sides are evaluating their options and considering what's best for their respective interests moving forward. Let's talk about the basketball side of things for a moment, because that's ultimately what matters most to fans. The Lakers' success this season has been heavily dependent on Doncic's production, perhaps to an unhealthy degree. When he's on the floor playing at this elite level, the Lakers are nearly unbeatable. But what happens on nights when he's not at his best, or when injuries occur, or when playoff defenses scheme specifically to limit his effectiveness? Championship teams need multiple creators, multiple shot makers, and depth across the roster that can withstand the inevitable challenges that arise during an 82-game season plus playoffs. The supporting cast around Doncic is solid but not spectacular. Role players who excel in their specific functions but perhaps lack the star power to carry the team when needed. The Lakers have historically succeeded when they've paired multiple Hall of Fame-level talents together. Magic had Kareem, Kobe had Shaq, then Pau, and even the 2020 championship team had LeBron and Anthony Davis as a formidable duo. Asking Doncic to be the sole superstar carrying the franchise to a title is possible, but presents significant challenges against teams that can throw multiple elite defenders at him. From a financial perspective, the Lakers are facing some hard realities about their salary cap situation moving forward. The new collective bargaining agreement has made it increasingly difficult to build and maintain championship rosters while paying max contracts to multiple players. The luxury tax penalties are severe, the restrictions on roster flexibility are significant, and small market teams are now on more equal footing with historically dominant franchises like the Lakers. This isn't your father's NBA, where the Lakers could simply outspend everyone else and accumulate talent through financial might alone. There's also the question of organizational philosophy and where the Lakers see themselves heading over the next 5 to 10 years. Are we in win-now mode, mortgaging future assets to maximize the current championship window? Or are we thinking longer term, trying to build sustainable success that extends beyond just this season or next? Different philosophies require different roster construction strategies, and those strategies directly impact how you handle a player of Doncic's caliber and contract status. The whispers that are starting to circulate around league circles suggest that not everyone is convinced this current partnership between Doncic and the Lakers represents the optimal situation for either party long term. That's not to say there's any animosity or problems in the relationship, but rather an acknowledgement that sometimes what makes sense in theory doesn't translate to practical championship viability in practice. The Lakers might look at their roster and wonder if they could better deploy their resources in a different configuration. Doncic might look at the supporting cast and wonder if there's a better fit elsewhere that gives him a stronger chance to win multiple championships during his prime years. Now, here's where the speculation gets really interesting, and I want to be clear that I'm presenting this as educated analysis based on patterns we've seen throughout NBA history, not as reporting of imminent transactions. But when you have a superstar on a team that's good but not great, performing at an elite level but perhaps not surrounded by enough talent to truly contend for multiple championships, history tells us that change often follows. Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City despite reaching the finals. LeBron James left Cleveland twice despite being from Ohio and having deep roots there. Kawhi Leonard forced his way out of San Antonio despite playing for one of the league's model franchises. The modern NBA superstar increasingly makes career decisions based on maximizing their championship potential and building their legacy. If Doncic looks around the league and sees situations in other cities that appear more conducive to sustained championship contention, that's going to factor into his thinking when decisions need to be made about his future. Maybe he sees a team with better defensive infrastructure or a younger core of players on rookie contracts that provides more flexibility, or an organization with a track record of making the bold moves necessary to stay competitive year after year. From the Lakers' perspective, they have to be having internal conversations about whether keeping Doncic and building around him is truly the path to Banner 18 and beyond, or whether exploring alternative roster configurations might give them a better chance at sustained success. That sounds almost blasphemous to say given his production this season, but front offices don't have the luxury of being emotionally attached to players. They have to make cold, calculated decisions based on probabilities and outcomes. If the analytics suggest that the current trajectory doesn't lead to championships, they have an obligation to consider alternatives. There's also a very real possibility that mutual interest exists in exploring what a separation might look like, even as both sides continue to win games together this season. Doncic might love playing in Los Angeles, might appreciate the Lakers' history and fan base, but also recognize that his championship window is limited and he needs to maximize his chances. The Lakers might value everything Doncic brings to the organization, but also understand that his contract situation creates constraints that limit their ability to address other roster needs. Sometimes two parties can both be right about what's best for them individually, even if that means going separate directions. The timeline for any potential movement wouldn't be immediate, and this is important for fans to understand. We're not talking about something happening tomorrow or even this season, barring some catastrophic unforeseen circumstance. But as we approach the off-season, as contract extension discussions potentially begin, as the Lakers evaluate their playoff performance and what changes might be necessary to take the next step, all of these factors will come into play. Decisions made in the next 6 to 12 months could set the course for the franchise for the next decade. What would a potential departure look like if it were to happen? The return package would have to be absolutely massive. We're talking about multiple first-round picks, young players with star potential, and probably some veteran pieces that can contribute immediately. The Lakers aren't going to give away an MVP caliber player for anything less than a haul that helps them either contend immediately with a different roster construction or rebuild for the future with premium assets. Teams like the Knicks, the Heat, the Mavericks, and others would undoubtedly have strong interest in acquiring someone of Doncic's caliber. But here's what I believe as someone who's watched this organization for decades and understands how the Lakers operate. The Lakers don't make changes just for the sake of making changes. They don't panic, they don't overreact, and they don't give up on championship-level talent lightly. If Doncic continues performing at this level, if the team makes a deep playoff run this season, if the chemistry and fit continues to improve, then there's absolutely a path forward where he remains a Laker for the long haul, and we look back on this speculation as nothing more than noise. The optimistic scenario, and the one I'm personally hoping for as a Lakers fan, involves Doncic recognizing that he's in one of the most prestigious organizations in professional sports, in the best city for basketball, with a fan base that will support him unconditionally, and an ownership group that will invest whatever resources are necessary to win championships. The Lakers also have the ability to make roster improvements that could address current weaknesses and convince Doncic that this is where he should finish his career. Trading for another star player, drafting well to add young talent on affordable contracts, making shrewd free agent signings that fill specific needs. All of these are possible moves that could transform the roster from good to truly great. What would it take for you to support a potential move involving our current MVP candidate? Would you rather go all in right now, trading future assets to maximize this championship window? Or do you prefer a more measured approach that balances present and future? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation is too important to ignore, and I genuinely value your perspective on where this franchise should be heading. And if you want to stay ahead of every development, every rumor, and every piece of analysis surrounding the Lakers, you need to subscribe to Lakers News Fan Report immediately. We're bringing you daily content that goes deeper than anyone else, breaking down the strategies, the possibilities, and the realities that every Lakers fan needs to understand. Hit that subscribe button, smash the notification bell, and join our community of passionate fans who demand the truth about our beloved franchise. Let's run it back.